Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn. Watched on Big 12 Studios, brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. We check in with Ross Dellenger, senior writer for Yahoo Sports. And Ross, fresh off the printer about 30 minutes ago, you noted that the NCAA is exploring a significant change to its eligibility rule. What can you tell us in terms of what's happening there?
Yeah, pretty significant things going on at the NCAA when it comes to eligibility. Obviously, eligibility's been sort of this vexing issue for the NCAA now for the last year or so, year and a half, and they've been trying to figure out ways to find a solution. And I think that solution has arrived, at least they believe so, is that they can create a new standard for eligibility. Basically, under the proposal, and it's just a proposal for now, it's supposed to go before the NCAA Division I cabinet next week for review, not vote. So it could be a little ways before actual vote approval. But according to the proposal, players would have 5 years from their 19th birthday or their high school graduation to play college in college. There would be no waivers and no red shirts. There would be some exceptions like maternity leave, religious missions, and in military service. But outside of that, there would be no waivers, no red shirts, and there would just be 5 years to play, 5 years from the time that a player turns 19 or till he or she graduates high school, which would obviously be a significant change in two part. One, you're creating an age-based standard, which we don't have now, which is sort of leading to 25, 26, 27-year-olds playing in college, number one. And number two, the decision to eliminate the red shirt and waiver process is obviously pretty significant. That's a long-standing NCAA sort of avenue for players to, get or ask for, request additional years of eligibility.
Is this in line with the executive order from President Trump? And, do you think it would hold up in court?
Yeah, it is in line with one of Donald Trump's concepts in the executive order. I think that though that is the case, the NCAA has been working at least a month, if not a month and a half, on this issue. So it's kind of been down the pipe. Actually, since the Trinidad Chambliss ruling, I believe in the middle of February, is really when the NCAA got going on trying to do this. But it does sort of check off one of the things that was in the Trump executive order. You could ask whether that's legally defensible about any NCAA policy, right, or any new NCAA policy.
Right.
They seem to be challenged around every corner. I'm sure they'll be challenged around this as well. It's just kind of a constant, it seems.
Yeah, the executive order that dropped on the eve of the Final Four, of those 10 pages that you had your hands on, is there anything in there that people haven't focused on yet? I mean, what are the main bullet points from those 10 pages?
Yeah, it obviously instructs the NCAA to create several pieces of legislation. One is this one, eligibility of 5 years for college athletes. The second one would be to reinstitute the one-time transfer policy, where a player can transfer one time and then has to sit out a year. That one is a little more difficult to change because the NCAA was sued by several states, and the Department of Justice actually joined the lawsuit a year ago or so, or several years ago, actually, to prevent players from being restricted to move. So that's one that would be harder to do, you know. Um, Another one that the executive order instructs the NCAA to do would be to ban pro athletes from participating in college. That's also a little difficult to do, but the NCAA's, especially with this rule change potentially, the age, the eligibility rule change, age-based eligibility, I think sort of moves everything in that direction. So in some of the pre-enrollment changes that the NCAA's made over the last few weeks as well, sort of is a move toward prohibiting pro players from returning. Um, I think there was a medical coverage in there. The NCAA already does that. There was also a ban on collectives or to prohibit pay for play in collectives. The College Sports Commission is supposed to do that. That's why it was originally started. And then I think, to really get back to your question, the main sort of one of the issues overshadowed is Donald Trump instructing the NCAA to create an agent registry for sports agents in college. That's harder to do because the NCAA doesn't have purview or oversight over like private agents. So it's a little more difficult to do. So some of these things that he's instructed can be done. Others are certainly more difficult, but the NCAA clearly is taking them seriously. I think they were reviewing all of the ways that they could address the concepts that he mentioned in the executive order.
You know, Ross, it's so obvious that all of this would be much easier if athletes were deemed employees and they could have a collective bargaining agreement. But at this point, the NCAA and member institutions are unwilling to entertain that, at least to the degree that it probably needs to be. What happens first? The NCAA and member institutions relent and make athletes employees, and there's a collective bargaining agreement, or Congress passes bills that help to, create structure around this?
Given the history of Congress and the current situation, which there's a lot going on in the world, I would say that you're probably, I would probably say that collective bargaining in employment at some point, a group of schools or conferences will attempt to deem their athletes employees. To collectively bargain with them. I would think that would come first. I say that with in mind that there is more momentum and more conversation at the Capitol for some kind of legislation. It's just, there still seems to be a great divide on this issue between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans that want a more narrow college sports bill that leans toward the NCAA and perhaps restricts athletes a little more versus the Democrats' thinking, which is to really not have the NCAA involved at all in oversight and have a government oversight of college athletics, plus have more athlete freedoms and things like that. So that's just the divide they're in, and it feels like while there's more conversation, they still seem to be far apart, but they're closer than ever. I just don't know what that exactly means.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah. Last thing for me, Ross, is the NCAA tournament definitely expanding, and would that be for this upcoming season, 2027 tournament, or would that be a couple years down the road?
Yeah, it would. It would be. The thought is that it would be for this coming tournament, the next tournament, that it would be expanded. Most express pretty loud optimism that it will expand to 76 teams. It's not finalized yet, but I think by the end of the month it will be finalized.
By the end of the month, wow. Ross, appreciate your time, man. Sorry for the delay, and thanks for popping on this morning.
Yeah, no problem.
Ross Dellenger, senior writer for Yahoo Sports. Great stuff from Ross, as always, to unpack everything that's happening in the world of college sports at the highest of levels. Over 30 presidents, a ton from the Big 12. Met with a couple of senators the other day. He's all over that. Ross Dellenger from Yahoo Sports here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. He's Ari. I'm James. Coming up next, college football headlines. One ESPN analytics guru loves what the Big 12 has done this offseason in college football. That's coming up next. We are brought to you by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.